Welcome everybody to the work session. Our work session on the public parking rate. And what we'll do is go around the table, identify ourselves for the record. Sherry, you want to identify yourself for the record? You're representing LD.
Jeff Easley.
Jeff Steele, Summit.
Paul Holmes, Summit. Dick Cranius, Summit.
Patrick Flynn.
Jennifer Johnston.
Bill Evans, Summit.
Ryan Bruno, ACDA, Easy Park.
Andrew Hopper, ACDA.
Welcome to the meeting. Andrew, we'll turn time over to you, sir.
And I will turn it over to Brian.
Okay.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. What we are here for is to get some initial engagement with the Assembly regarding parking rate plan going forward for this year. In front of you is a small snapshot of kind of the history and the context for why we're having the conversation and engaging in the community. But we wanted to keep you guys informed both as stakeholders and as the Assembly in general to make sure that you're understanding what our process is. We're currently under our engagement process, so we've been in front of a number of different boards and public entities in downtown. We have met separately with some Assembly members, especially Mr. Flynn, for his sake. His downtown district is the most affected by some of the things that we do. So I guess we wanted to open up the conversation with a work session to ensure that all the bases that we're trying to cover with the public engagement process are being covered, and to get feedback from the Assembly as a whole as to what our plan is and what they may need updates on going forward. So our next steps is to continue this process for the next couple of months, and then begin a marketing and education plan on whatever programs and changes that we are going to be making with a timeline of trying to hit implementation by July 1. So we still have some time if we need to go back to the drawing board and revisit anything.
Mr. Chair, if I might add, just to touch on what Brian said, the reason we're here today is we have not had a rate increase in 7 years. Our board over the last 5 or 6 years has taken a look at least twice on raising parking rates, but it's always been squashed due to political timing and elections. And to be perfectly honest, Mr. Chair, over the last 7 years, we've invested $6.5 million out of cash flow to repair and upkeep these garages. We own and operate 3 different garages that are an average of 30 years old. These have significant cost of upkeep, not to mention the fact that over the last several years, Easy Park has invested in cutting-edge technology. And what that's done is, I would argue, it's made all of your lives easier. Over the last 3 years, while meter revenue has gone up, the cost citations, the number of citations have fallen dramatically. As a matter of fact, in 2015 over 2014, we wrote $160,000 less of parking tickets, and that's because we're getting more compliance to the meter after our investment in technology that allows people just to pay the meter. So we have some good things. We've invested quite a bit in technology, improving the parking experience. Moving forward, we believe that there's far more technology we need to invest in, like license plate recognition, and some of the other innovative practices that are being done in communities our size. And we cannot go another year without rate increases. Like I said, it's already been 7 years. Our parking rates today are the lowest in the nation of any comparable city. And our only local competitor, Diamond Parking, on average, on their surface lots, they're approximately $30 to $35 higher per month than we are. So our main competitor is outpricing us in some areas 2 or 3 times the cost per month.
And to echo on top of what Andrew's saying, the timing for us is necessary. And a number of the initiatives that we want to continue to grow when it comes to public safety and security that we're taking on, and the continuing of having a vibrant parking system, this is a necessary thing for us to visit.
We got some Sunday questions for you. Ms. Johnston, you're first.
I have a couple questions. What is your P&L at this point? What's profit loss?
At this point, the way our parking revenues with our increasing costs, we're having a hard time keeping up with inflationary economics. So we're breaking even, but going forward, in order to make some more capital investments and continue to do the things that we would like to do down the road, and including updating parking equipment in the facilities and construction of the facilities, we would be in the negative very quickly if we don't address the fact that we need additional revenue.
To touch on that, our pre-audited 15 statement shows we did 8.7 million in revenue. We booked $2 million in depreciation, so without the $2 million in depreciation being booked, we made $1 million. With the $2 million, we made $1 million paper loss. A lot of that, again, we paid almost 2.75 million out of cash flow in capital improvements last summer. And again, we've had increasing costs. Because the way the organization is designed, our costs are shared by the entire organization. So, for instance, when we look at garages at 6th and G or 7th and H that are attached to the transit center, this year alone, we will spend close to $800,000 just in security and janitorial. Now, bear in mind at the transit center, I generate $450,000 a year in tenant revenue. So I'm almost spending twice as much on security and janitorial as I am making on tenant revenues. And these problems in the transit center have filtered into the parking garages. Everything from sleepers in the stairwells to open air drug use to smash and grabs. I mean, the last 3 months have been absolute hell on this block. And what we've seen is we've had to invest more in costs because we're hosting more social problems. And that has driven the cost of managing these facilities up incredibly high. And again, when you combine all these things, increased environmental costs, the increased capital costs, and the fact we haven't had a rate bump in 7 years, it's a perfect storm for us.
Can I continue?
Josh, to continue?
Did I understand correctly that we lost one of our anchor tenants in that garage?
We lost some of them. We lost, effective February 1st, we lost 196 monthly parking permit payers from ConocoPhillips. They switched to the state garage. They had concerns of safety in our garage.
And what's the difference in cost for them to park at the state garage?
$5 cheaper per month. They didn't get, per month. They did not get a great deal, but from a competitive standpoint, it's problematic for us because, as you know, the state doesn't contribute a dime to downtown, whereas every dime we generate in revenue, the city gets a percentage of gross, not net revenues. So, now we're facing competition from a state garage facility that is.
But did you say the state costs them more, $5 more?
Less.
Less.
Okay,
so that's just, we still, no matter what the market is, we have to understand that. My concern or my interest is, as we automate, and you've already said that with the automation, you don't have as many tickets. Have you decreased your cost as far as ticketing?
The expenses have been addressed, so I'll give you an example. Even with the rising cost of utilities, we've done some retrofitting for lighting, for example, more efficient lighting, and that helped offset some of those costs without having to have rate increases. But at some point in time, we're going to see that not be as beneficial down the road because the cost of energy keeps going up. But for operational efficiencies, we're always looking to improve the expense side. Some of it comes by way of good customer service, and if we want to cut too far, we lose out on good customer service, and we do put that as a primary focus.
I'm just thinking as far as just going and the ticketing aspect.
Yes.
If you don't really need it as much, there should be some.
Correct. And the citation revenue is not being addressed in this. What we're really looking at is all of our rates for our permitting, for our hourly rate, and for our lots. And some of it's being targeted to try to get use in areas that are underused as opposed to that are overused. So, for example, we're even exploring a first hour free program in the Fifth Avenue garage because I have additional capacity. So even with rate increases in some places, I may be able to give back in others.
Okay.
Let me just, because I think your question was along the lines with the investment in technology, have we made subsequent decreases in
Right.
staffing?
Exactly.
I think that was your question. The answer is yes and no. Yes, we've shifted some positions around because now more and more people are paying their fees in costs online. We've had a decrease in the need for customer service. What we've done is we've switched those customer service agents to dispatch because our dispatch center is open 22 of the 24 hours a day. And now, within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll take over the 50 additional cameras in the transit center. We'll take over kind of becoming the hub of downtown security where they can call our dispatch center instead of the police. So when we've looked at, and we just got through with the 3-month audit where we had an outside analyst come in and look at just that, with the investment in technology over the last 3 to 4 years, is there a need for offsetting staff increases? And what we're seeing is that staff needs to be realigned, not let go, realigned with our new initiatives, mainly the security net now. Because right now, with the way we want to develop a larger security net, we still need the same number of people on the street to take care of the parking issue.
And my final question is, what's the national trend as far as parking rates? I realize that you're saying we're the lowest in the nation, but what's the
So
trend?
typically what most operations plan for is a 3% increase every year, and we haven't even taken that into consideration. That's the same, is to keep up with inflationary, rising prices of normal cost of doing business, and we've been stagnant for 7 years. So if we took that logic, we're way behind the curve on what the national average.
And there's no, so as far as incentivizing parking, I would think the dynamics of parking within urban centers is changing.
Mhm.
And so, the trending as far as, I guess I shouldn't say the trending 5 to 10 years back, but what are they looking future as
Mhm.
far as parking fees? So
And we think technology has a huge role to play in, for instance, automatic availability. For instance, you go into one of our garages and you'll be able to see on your phone exactly where there's a space available. Same with on the street. The street poses problems because we're a winter city. Snow and ice play havoc with the sensors, so that's an issue. But we think things like license plate recognition, where you would just completely get rid of the gates and people would be able to come and go, is used in most major cities. We're also we have to look big picture. And we have to look at our facilities as assets and utilize those facilities in a better way, and generate more revenue and turn them into actual venues where people want to come down, want to park, and want to enjoy the amenities that we offer. And I think the training center remodel is a perfect example. I mean, we put a quality tenant in there, whether it's a restaurant or something else, and we're going to increase parking in that 6th and G garage, which is going to increase revenue, which is going to benefit every local property taxpayer in this community.
One last question.
And one
then we
last
got 4
question,
others.
and I'm not, one to ever say we shouldn't improve technology. I'm a firm believer in that, but have you done a cost-benefit analysis of your technology?
And because we still have some initiatives to take on, that'll be a part of the process when we look to update the equipment in the facilities. Because right now, what we're doing is keeping 20-year-old technology running better than most cities. So when we have an opportunity, because we're going to have to replace that sometime in the next few years, we will do exactly that and make sure that we're getting a return on the investment.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Flynn, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for yielding yourself.
Oh, I could have talked all day. I'm just getting used to getting my
I'll
voice.
put you at the back of the end.
I just found my voice after 9 years.
Better late than never. Just for context, some of you were here and some of you were not when I spent a couple of years as one of the ex officio members of the ACDA board. And I believe at the time I cautioned you that depreciation was paying the bills at ACDA, and that time of reckoning was going to occur. It wasn't an if, it was a when. So that's appears to be what we're hearing now. And just as an editorial note, I am delighted to hear that ticketing revenues are down. That was our goal when we returned authority for enforcement to municipal entity. My first question, though, is about you guys. If I recall correctly, you sell cards that people can use to pay at the meter as opposed to a credit card or coins or whatever. Is there a way you looked at recharging those online?
There could be a possibility for something along those lines. I think with what we currently have, you have to come to our office, but that's why we enabled the pay by phone option system-wide on the street. So that is an alternative mode where you don't have to come visit us. You can kind of pay as you go and have a credit card on file and do it from a smartphone.
Costs you more though, right?
It costs you a transaction, a convenience fee, and one thing we're looking at is, incorporating that transaction fee when we look at the rates. Is there an incentive to push the technology onto the consumer? And does that rate change the same way that the fee, by coin operating mechanisms, do they offset each other? So that you will be paying the same price, but in some ways getting an incentive to go and use that technology.
I think that would be beneficial. And then finally, can you speak a little bit more, and I see Mr. Boring here, and I don't know if you want to invite him to talk about this, about the efforts to, I guess, unify downtown dispatch of non-APD resources for general security in the downtown area.
Jamie can join us.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
So it's as important as parking is, security for downtown is the most important thing that we can provide, because in a secure environment, people are free markets, free to thrive. And Andrew has offered up the dispatch call center, no additional charge, 22 hours a day. Typically, the ambassadors from the Anchorage Downtown Partnership, we would have 6 people out in the downtown area. And if they were on the phone with ADP, or APD, forgive me, sometimes they'd be tied up for 25, 35, 45 minutes. And so what happens, somebody calls up and they have a non-911 issue, non-life-threatening issue, and nobody's answering the phone. And so then it's 35 minutes, 45 minutes, even sometimes hours later that we're getting back to those potential customers. And with the call center being able to be the point of contact for everybody in this room and everybody out in downtown to call, whether it's somebody that has a mental health problem or is an inebriate or is an actual potential happenstance crime or something that just looks out of place or just general information about safety, it's huge. It's huge for Anchorage Downtown Partnership, because now we can put all of our ambassadors and all of our maintenance people to work being ambassadors and being maintenance people and not being a call center. It's tremendous. And it's not in lieu of the police, it's in addition to the police. It's not instead of 911, it's in addition to 911. So it's a great partnership. We're looking forward to it. Easy Park has also suggested that they would help us out with lighting in the future, with additional cameras in the future. All of those things cost money. All those ultimately encourage people to feel safer. When they feel safer, they pull out their wallets, they spend more money. So it's a real win-win opportunity, and I thank you both very much for bringing it to us. I don't know why it didn't happen before, but it's been offered now, and we're going to make the best of it.
Mr. Flynn.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate you coming and.
Jimmy, why don't you just sit right there?
I will do that. Happily.
Then we may have more questions. I want to have a lot.
I don't know if Andrew or Brian want to add anything to that.
I would add to your point earlier, these are some of the services that we can expand on without having to add additional staff because of some of the technology investment that we have. Like our dispatch center is able to take on this initiative without having to add FTEs to the program. We're primed and set up to be able to add this with little or no additional expenditures on our part.
You know, just to touch on this idea really came about over the last couple of months with just how much of a concern, public health and safety has become the transit center. And when we started thinking about it, it was like, okay, it's not just the block between 7th and G or 6th and G and 6th and H. I mean, you have pockets all over town that are experiencing challenges, and you have the displacement issue where you move somebody along, we ban them from the transit center, and they end up down, to Jamie's end of town. And we just thought, we stepped back and looked at the big picture, and we have people on the street, and we have people in the garages, and Jamie has people on the street, and all over downtown. And so it just seemed like a sensible move to get people talking to one another on the same channels, and then the idea expanded to like, okay, let's bring in the Sheraton security and the Cook security and create a network where we all can have one communication channel. So if we see something going on in somebody's part of town, then we can relay, and our people on the street can be aware and keep an eye out for it.
Besides the Sheraton and the Cook and you and ADP, are there any other?
Yeah, ConocoPhillips.
Doyon, the concern so we've had 2 meetings now with all the providers, and the only real hurdle is everybody's on board with the idea of having one central call center and being able to respond and partner, and then get information from the street back to dispatch so that we can get it out to the world. There's an insurance question, and so we're working through that right now. If you work for Doyon at the Cook or at any one of the locations, and then you come across the street to help an ambassador or a PEO, and something goes sideways, what happens? So that's the phase that we're in now, and then the second part of that will be training, and then obviously continued effort towards collaboration.
We think in the next 2 weeks we've been working on protocol the last 2 or 3 weeks as far as a number of things. How does that work? Our engagement using our dispatch center. How do we make it available for this security initiative, but yet protect the integrity for the parking, which is obviously essential. how do we bring in the groups, the alumni from the Citizens Academy? How do we best utilize that resource? Who does the scheduling? What uniforms do we provide them? How do we get them radios? How do we pair them up and schedule them? So we anticipate the next 2 to 3 weeks we'll have all this set. APE's on board, they're gonna come in and train us. We're gonna sit down with Jamie and his ambassadors and give them the same training that we give our parking enforcement officers. So we're gonna have not just united communication, but we're gonna have better training. And we're all gonna be on the same page.
Good.
That's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Holdeman?
Well, first a comment and then a question. Number one is, I think Mr. Halcrow, who's been at least twice before the Public Safety Committee, so members here recall, and he gave us presentations on the statistical data from 2015 and I believe even back a little further, showing the difference of call services and the problems and things like that. So that's one area, and I'm excited to see the city center concept designs and such into that. In a general overall concept, I think we're going the right direction. Community policing is just that. We're all in this together on a public safety within the community. And this is stakeholders, if you will, taking ownership of the problems within the community. I think you're right, Mr. Halcrow, when you're saying it's not just limited to 60G, which is actually a part of a bigger overlay of the Downtown Business Improvement District and the Downtown Partnership. So this makes a whole lot of sense in that concept. Getting back though to the fee increase or the parking service increase, and I haven't seen a number and maybe I missed it. What's the specific suggested increase? Are we looking at the 3% for the last 7 years, 20% increase, or?
No, we're looking at it generally speaking, an overall 5% increase across the board.
5%?
Yeah, that's about where it averages out. We
That's
haven't
both years?
set on a number yet because we're still in this engagement phase and we might tweak our plan, and due to, the loss of conflict goals, we might target different areas differently. And when we have that number, we'd be more than happy to present it, but generally speaking, it's about 5%.
So this be at meters and garage spaces?
Yes, we're looking system-wide. I think I outlined all the different areas that were under consideration. If you look on page 2 of the handout that I provided, what's being considered is everything across the board. Because we want to make sure that we're looking at it in whole and achieving the goals of use in areas that are underused, as well as, being cognizant that there's some folks that need cheaper options.
And real quick, I want to make a point before I forget, because over the last couple of months, as conversations about the renovation and the redevelopment of City Center has circulated in the press, there's been some misinformation out there that suddenly parking fees are going to be covering the transit center redevelopment. That is absolutely positively not true. As a matter of fact, that doesn't even make any basic financial sense that we would spend over $8 million renovating the transit center based on hopeful parking increases. The cost, the debt service, and the cost of construction for the city center will be paid for by tenant spaces. And we will not begin construction until we are assured, and our bonding agency is assured, that we will generate tenant revenues enough to cover the tenant service. We anticipate the cost, the initial estimates have come in about $8.1 million. That will include a brand new innovative people mover space and then a large retail space. We anticipate by the end of the year all of our tenants will be out. We are targeting construction, if everything goes to plan, targeting breaking ground either end of this year or January 2017. The building will be shut for a year while it's under construction. And so we anticipate possible reopen in spring of 18.
One more question. Is there existing deferred maintenance or assessment on the actual parking facility? Because even though that center space would be shut for a year, parking would still be ongoing. Is there plans to innovate both and converge both?
Well, right now, we're in our second phase this year of facility construction to ensure that the facilities are being repaired. A lot of that is because of deferred maintenance that we needed to catch up on, and we'll have a third phase next year that should get us back to square one. Reinventing that space may not be a part of this project, but it could be something that we look towards in the future if we need to. But we're making sure that our 30-year-old facilities are being taken care of with the inclusion of elevator modernization, for example. At 5th Avenue, we have the project underway right now where we're putting in $700,000 to upgrade those elevator systems that are 30 years old. We've done it at 7th Avenue already. 6th Avenue would be the next one on the list to consider. Most of the building is separate from the space that is leasable, so we don't necessarily have to take those into consideration at the same time.
Rose? Mr. Steele, sir.
A couple of things. One is, you mentioned the smash and grab aspect and the need for the enforcement of cameras and everything. Who bears the liability for that? Does the automobile owner bear the liability, or is there some security? Do we have security in there, or they say it wasn't happening?
The liability is on the parker. It really is, but we
Says
do
that
take.
on the ticket, probably.
It does. On the back of every ticket that you pull in on any agreement that you sign with us, you're parking at your own risk. But it doesn't mean that we don't have some responsibility there as well. We do have insurance to cover us for things in case we need to, but if we were negligent, we would absolutely be responsible. Because it's a public space that multiple people have access to, we can't stop things from happening. We can only get better at overseeing them and responding to them and making sure that they don't become problems in the future.
And one of the things, Tim, if I could jump in here talking about security, is when you look at the redesign, because we've looked at, in working with the architects and redesigning the city center, we've adopted the strictest SEPTED suggestions out there, the crime prevention for environmental designs. So when the building is completed, both on the G Street side and the Tate Street side, the security pods will be pushed to the outside. So they'll actually be able to have a very clear, unobstructed view of both the stairwells and the elevator lobbies on both sides of the building. And so security on the people mover side will not only have direct vision control over the stairwells and elevator lobbies, but if they turn around, they've got basically a 360-degree view of the complete waiting area for people mover passengers. So the security, just the relocating of the security pods will really bookend that facility and allow for what we think is critical, and that's a sharper focus on the stairwells and the garages themselves.
In addition to our camera expansion and our dispatch center that we would like to have 24/7 at some point in the future, we continue to try to monitor things in ways that we're not able to today because we don't have the cameras in place.
I'm really excited about the cooperation. I think that it's going to be a huge benefit to downtown in general, and so I'm really supportive of that. There has been some discussion about the possibility of expanding parking. I'm thinking specifically out in Spinard, some development that we were talking about up there. Is there any desire to do that? Is there any other plans? Is there any discussion taking place?
We meet regularly with developers who are looking at projects all over the city, and we tell them all the same thing. We're very interested in playing if parking is involved, because that's what we do. A lot of the really, I would say, the more mature projects that we've been talking about are more along the lines of downtown. But we have been in contact with Cook Inlet Housing for their 36th and Spinard development. We met several months ago with the Moose's Tooth folks and the possibility of something might happen in the Chilcoot Charlie parking lot. We're always having conversations, and that's one of the things we'd love to expand. We think there's a real need for parking in Midtown, and we're ready to play.
And you're ready to expand your vision in terms of the university, hospitals,
Right.
some of those things.
Right, and even the airport.
Citywide?
The airport has a fairly large parking service contract, but it's not up until
As
2019. So we feel we have the infrastructure. We fine-tuned our, Brian, you can speak to this, our citation, how long we addressed the citation over the last 3 years.
Yeah, so like our appeals process, we've gotten down, the response time used to take 90 days. About 7 or 8 years ago, we respond within 4. So we're making efficiencies from a customer service standpoint in those regards as well.
Let's work out all the bugs downtown and find out something.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Peterson, anything, sir?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Well, I was interested in You're talking about using some of the ambassadors as sort of security personnel or something? You're talking about, they would call into security to report some problem, or they've apprehended someone, or I just don't exactly understand how that's supposed to work.
Are you familiar with our ambassador program?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so the Anchorage Downtown Partnership currently has 6 positions per day, 7 days a week. And we start at 8 o'clock in the morning and we go till 9 o'clock at night. The unsung heroes in that group, though, is also the Anchorage Downtown Partnership's maintenance staff who come on at 5 o'clock in the morning. So at 5 o'clock in the morning on any given day, our staff, in conjunction with the staff at the Easy Park, will start clearing doorways and entryways of people that are sleeping there for whatever reason. Usually they wake them up with, everybody has a smile and everybody goes about their way, but probably 20% there's some sort of either drug or alcohol-induced stupor involved, and there's sometimes aggressive people. So that starts out the day with the maintenance staff, and then we have ambassadors that come on at 8 o'clock. They're pairs of 2, and they walk the whole 120 blocks of downtown throughout the day. And then we have 10 o'clock, another 2 come on, and at noon, another 2 come on. So the relationship that's already been happening anyway, but it hasn't really been a uniform system in place, is that everybody downtown is trying to work together to a common goal to make everybody more safe. Not just in perception, but in reality. And so we are solidifying that, and that's happening so that when you're out and you see something, it may get to the point that you can pull out your phone, hit a button, it'll geo-track you. You'll be asked 2 or 3 different questions. You hit the button, it goes straight to dispatch. That's a little ways off now, but we'll get to the point that whether you're a tourist or you're an assemblyman, you can help us community police downtown.
Mr. Steele, Mr. Pierce, anything? Mr. Holman?
Yeah, and I forgot to say, that was a great explanation, by the way, and that goes back to, thank you, Mr. Alco, for the septet explanation too. That's, I think what has happened is that we're in, we have what we have because there wasn't septet. There wasn't the long-range vision or planning of what downtown really would look like and how it might, as Ms. Johnson said, redevelop and start changing or shifting. I think that's what's happening. And so, I will say that an observation that I've made working with the university was a great example of use of the camera systems and surveillance and technology. It not only, but of course, that comes with a cost. And certainly there's, someone has to staff or monitor the camera monitors so that they can know what's going on and take action. But at best you can record, or at least you can record, and at that point it becomes crucial for evidentiary purposes in case there's an incident that turns out needs further investigation or even a prosecution. The municipal prosecutors has been raving about the fact that you get a theft or even a harassment incident. It's usually a he said, she said kind of thing. The video is the silent witness that's unbiased, and so you see this as becoming really a trend that's becoming more and more useful for a lot of reasons. And so it is, the technology is improving, but it comes with a price tag. So
well, we had an incident in the JCPenney, one of the JCPenney elevator lobbies, where a woman was attacked. We got it all on camera, and within 15 minutes we had the video to APD, and they had arrested the guy downtown. So you're absolutely right, and we think that with tighter control, the challenge with the transit center has been, up until now, People Mover has access to 50 some odd cameras in there. We don't have access. We can go to them and we can say, I'd like this timestamp, can you pull me the video? But we don't have live access. And the reason for that is that's paid for by a federal grant, so they control it. So now we've worked with the municipality, we've installed our own firewalls, so we're ready to take the handoff once we get an MOU signed. So our people will be monitoring the transit center's cameras live. And we'll have access to all 50 at our dispatch center, so when something does happen, we can get the police the video immediately, and we don't have to wait for somebody to download.
And we can be proactive when we're monitoring as well.
And I might add that's about a 4-year-old system, I think, and I'll tell you that is top notch. They have audio, visual, and they can piece it together from looks like some of these smoke detectors, and the camera actually picks up like a handoff. You can hear the conversation even as they walk through. It's really phenomenal. If you're not really Big Brother.
Is that all, sir?
Yes, safe word.
Any other questions? Ms. Johnston?
Yeah, because I haven't talked enough.
Well, we do have half an hour, ma'am. Go ahead.
I know.
So is this what your proposals, this is what you're taking to folks as far as,
Yeah.
an tenant?
Yeah.
Anchor tenant? And are you trying to secure the anchor tenant before you have an RFP as far as the architecture? Or as
No,
far as
we're actually in the process of drafting a public RFP. We're gonna go out to bid probably within 2 to 3 weeks. We have preliminary cost estimates. We engaged RIM on 2 small contracts. They satisfied those 2 small contracts to get us to where we can make a decision. The board yesterday afternoon made a decision to go to RFP. So we'll be going out to the public with an RFP for construction design services. And Carl Kuhn's working on the commercial side, meeting with possible anchor tenants.
I guess I'm, as far as the RFP and the redevelopment, depending on who the anchor tenant was, but they would maybe go into partnership as far as, overall construction stuff. I hope we don't get cart before the horse.
No, we're proceeding very cautiously. The big thing is, and this gets back to what Mr. Flynn said about depreciation paying the bills. We're losing close to $500,000 a year on that building. I mean, it is staggering when you run the P&L for the transit center. And then on top of that $500,000 loss, $88,000 of that is MISA. So I'm basically paying to lose money because the transit center is hosting all of downtown's problems, and we're having to pay for them. And so we believe that with this redevelopment, this will be the most modern retail space in 30 years since the Fifth Avenue Mall was built. And we also feel like there are, Carl's only had the listing for a little more than 3 weeks. And in his report yesterday, he's already engaging several potential national retailers in the space. So we think 2 years, it's going to be 2 years before the thing is completed. That gives us plenty of time to work on parallel tracks, moving the process down the road while out in the marketplace trying to find an anchor tenant.
All done? Any questions, Ms. Sullivan?
I just goes,
Oh, would you like-
probably not every problem in downtown is
I know.
We just posed that. We just posed
I thought
that.
I
We
was.
don't
Your area, Mr. Flynn?
I wasn't going to go there. It's a little.
Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So is the transit center gonna be closed down during construction?
Yes.
And where's it gonna be moved to?
You mean the people mover functions? We're in conversations with them right now about finding a suitable alternative venue for the year.
No.
It'll be downtown.
Somewhere.
I go into bid.
Mr. Chair,
Sir?
this is likely an off-track part of projection, but it's something that's in very serious discussion. And that is through ADP and through the ACDA and whomever we can get into partnership, if you will. And this is actually kind of goes through community policing, but it's really a functional human nature. That is the complaint of the lack of public facilities in either shared or public use spaces. You mentioned the Fifth Avenue Mall is one. You've got businesses up and down all the blocks of the Acres downtown area, what we call City Center Court. And that's public restroom. And I think that problematic as they may be to police and clean and thing, but I'm envisioning, and this is just a projection, I'm envisioning something that perhaps there could be this ongoing day labor maintenance contract with people that frequent and may be looking for something meaningful to do. It could be bathroom attendants on a regular basis through transit shelters, on outreach through people working for maintenance. And then the security ambassadors and perhaps all the security are nearby can adopt restrooms, so to speak, to kind of monitor for activities and such. But clearly one tenant shouldn't take on all of it, like the public transit center shouldn't be the bathroom for everybody downtown. Because that's several ways to block if you're at the far west end of east end of downtown to come down to the west end of the path. But these are things that are normal. Tourists can use it, shoppers can use it, assembly members can use. It's something that seriously needs to be considered down the road.
And I will tell you, Mr. Honeman, I spent a good deal of time that I never thought I would spend studying communities and public restrooms because of your exact concerns. I mean, I never thought I'd see the day where I was actually studying public toilets. And the challenge is every city in this country has tried to do public toilets. And they all end up the same way. There's only one community that on a very limited basis has done public restrooms successfully, and that's Portland. As a matter of fact, it's the only path that's ever come out of Portland, and that's for a public toilet. It's called the Portland Loo. And you know, they're 90 grand a piece. They're 90 grand to install because you have to have plumbing. They're out on the sidewalk. But I mean, you know, a couple of years ago, ACDA spent 250 grand remodeling our bathrooms at the transit center, and they're trash. I mean, I don't have to tell you because you have 2 public bathrooms right downstairs in the lobby, and you know, that was one of the things that all these communities, including Seattle, had this great idea. Well, you know, we'll just get these self-cleaning ones or these easy-to-clean ones, and within a month or 2, nobody would even go near them because they were just simple biohazard risks. And we struggle to do that, and we absolutely agree that public restrooms are a huge barrier downtown, not just for tourists, but homeless and just people that need to use a restroom. The challenge is how do you do it? And every community's tried. We're trying to find the sweet spot.
So the Anchorage Downtown Partnership is actually working on putting a program together for that exact thing. And our direction is going to be, instead of having a freestanding bathroom that you need to get infrastructure to out in the middle of a sidewalk, that we find 8 places downtown where there's already an existing building. And let's just say you own it. And I come to you and I say, this is an area that's on the backside but still visible. Can I lease 100 feet from you? You already are on a crawl space, you have plumbing, we put a facade that are the same, they're all the same. There's 2 individual bathrooms that are securable, so if one's down, one of them is still open. And then our maintenance staff already cleans multiple public bathrooms down at the railroad and a couple places downtown. So in the tourist season, it would be hourly. We would have some sort of way that we have a 4-wheeler with a trailer that has the ability to clean and just go from stop to stop to stop to stop. We would work with, like you mentioned, a business owner or an entity that's around to kind of partner to keep an eye on it. Hey, we got a problem down here, we've got somebody camping out, it needs service, whatever it is, block it until we can get there. So that community policing will also go through that. How we're gonna pay for it yet, not sure. But by having a building that's existing, the goal would be to be able to build a bathroom for about $50,000 as opposed to $200,000 on a freestanding building that ultimately is gonna have the same purpose. So trying to find those community partners that we can work with, the business owners downtown, the building owners downtown, and be able to provide that service is the direction we're headed.
You know, I think it's a wonderful concept. I like that, and the technology. I just traveling around. I know I've been in places, and some of them are restaurants,
Sure.
meeting places or whatever, and surprised, almost impressed when you go to the restroom. There might be the old bathroom attendant, you know, standing there making sure that you got cologne or you have soap. Or here I got you a towel, hand towel. I mean, it's something to that nature. It's a throwback to the 40s, 50s clubs kind of thing, but really impressed when someone goes that far. And they weren't like illustrious stainless steel. These were some of these older bathrooms that somebody just decided, hey, we're gonna not let them get further trash so we can keep maintainable and operable.
Good idea.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Steele.
And to be able to upgrade for events such as something like Park Strip or Perrone, stuff like that, when you have a lot of people downtown for special events. So
We've
it's
called.
obviously a need.
We've called and asked the people that provide the service for porta potties, can we take a look at a nicer looking one?
Yeah.
And because of the transient population, they don't even want to bring them downtown. There's just too many problems. And they don't want to service them. Really, that's what it comes down to. They don't want to service them. So being able to connect the dots and make sure you have the right staff that's trained how to deal with the issues that arise in those facilities, whether they're permanent or they're temporary, it's ultimately the training and the staff and the funding to do that.
Well, we have a viable downtown with a lot of activity
That's right.
going on. We need to be able to make, to account for
That's right.
public needs.
And right now, we're accounting for them. There's probably 200-300 deposits going around in the next couple days downtown.
Yeah.
And our maintenance staff is cleaning it up. They're they're shoveling it and power washing, and it's all over downtown,
Yeah.
not just in certain areas, because there are no public bathrooms. So they are using the space. Would be just nice if we actually had a proper facility for them to do it.
Anything else?
That's it.
Any questions, comments? Just a couple things, Andrew, when you're looking for an anchor over here, would you look at a Walgreen type? Because we have so many hotels down here, there's really no place for our tourists to go. It would be good to have something like that over here. Gives them a facility. I was in Vegas recently, and they have one right down the strip. And that sort of thing would really be nice for our tourists that are here in town, so.
The great chains.
Well,
Whichever.
We had, about 2 weeks ago, we had a conference call with the senior Walgreens guy in charge of retail and pharmacy. They love downtown. They've been looking at downtown for a while. They love the space. They love the location. They just feel the numbers aren't there yet. The transient numbers, the street traffic, they said it's getting close, but it's not quite there. So within the next year, when we start to break ground, hopefully, within the next year or two, he said that they were gonna take another look at it. But in the meantime, I know our commercial broker is only talking right now to restaurant grocery pharmacy, type organizations, type companies about moving in there, because that was what we said we want. We want the development we want, not the development we get. And what downtown really needs is some kind of a grocery pharmacy component.
For sure.
Thank you guys for being here today.
That completes the work session. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.